So you want to see the Northern Lights? Well, we've done that.
Under very trying circumstances.
As for now, it doesn't look too promising.
We've done a whole series on our trip to Norway, but here are our top tips for seeing the Northern Lights.
So increase your odds with Sam and Amy, who did it in the storm.
You can just see the storm blowing across.
So the Northern Lights has been on our bucket list for quite some time.
Yeah, and there's plenty of reasons to go and see them, but you're already here in this video, so we're guessing you've made up your mind already, but we're going to try and help you increase your odds of actually seeing them once you get there. Your luck varies. What we're trying to help you do is increase your odds. It's not guaranteed. It's like trying to see wildlife. You just have to take the risk and hope you get lucky, but you can increase your odds. So, where to go? Tromsø.
Välkommen till Tromsø.
Tromsø is the best place to start for your trip for the Northern Lights.
Yep, it's in the Arctic Circle, so it's really far north, so your chances of seeing the Northern Lights are very high.
Even better than Iceland. There are maybe some parts of Russia, some parts of Sweden and some parts of Norway that are as good, but actually Tromsø was relatively easy to get to.
Yeah, the other thing we did to increase our odds was to go in January. I think there's probably debate about whether or not that's quite the right month based on the weather that we had. Yeah. But essentially you need as much darkness as possible. So we decided to go in January because it's when the days are the shortest.
You need to go in the winter when it's dark. The darker it is for longer, the more chance you've got of them showing, because it needs to be dark for you to be able to see them. It's like when you used to have to turn the lights off to see a projector. It's like that. If it's bright and it's sunshine in the summer, the sunlight doesn't really set in the Arctic Circle, so you have to go in the winter. We went in January because we also wanted to do whale watching, which because of the weather ended up being cancelled. And if you're only going for the Northern Lights, March might be your best time, but the days are a little bit longer, which is nice because you get to see more stuff, but there's less darkness. There's a slightly shorter window to see the Northern Lights. If you miss that window, you're going to be waiting until the winter comes back around again towards the end of the year. But it's supposed to be the most active for Aurora this year. Next year will still be good, but it goes in it's about a 10 or 12 year cycle where it gets high and low. This year, we're at the peak. That's why we went this year.
I mean, we would highly recommend going on a tour.
Oh, definitely. If you're going to make all the effort to go to another country, get a professional guide to take you to the best spots and help you find, particularly for us when we went, a gap in the clouds. That was the issue. The Northern Lights were there, but they were hidden behind a layer of 100% cloud coverage.
And having a guide going on a tour meant that we knew what we were looking for as well.
Hey guys, so you can see right above the head here, all those streaks. Yeah. That's all Northern Lights shining through the clouds.
So when we actually saw them the second time, we weren't on a tour. It was just, we'd noticed the signs, the patterns, and I was like, that looks like what we'd seen on the tour the night before. So I think without that, we probably wouldn't have realised that's what we were looking at, and our cameras wouldn't have come out at that point.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of the tour company? I remember the name of the guide.
Northern Horizons.
And we had Bert, who was just the coolest guy. He was so you could just tell he was just a kind, happy person. He was really good.
Yeah.
And they found us. It was 100% cloud coverage, basically, the entire time we were staying in Norway, which was 4 days. So we'd given ourselves quite a good window, and we drove for 4 hours into Finland to find a gap in the clouds that lasted about 25 minutes, and it lined up perfectly with when the aurora was out. So we managed to see them, and people we spoke to who were there at the same time didn't see the lights.
Yeah.
Get away from the light pollution. Even Tromsø has a lot of street lights and stuff like that. You need to get slightly out of the city centre to give yourself the darkest sky. Even if the moon's too bright, it could overpower them a little bit. So get somewhere dark. Do not give up. Even if your app is saying, there's not a very high chance of seeing the Northern Lights, you can still see them. So our tour offered us a refund. And we were like, I was saying to Amy, oh, we're not going to see them, but we're here. We may as well have a go. It might be a bit of an adventure. And then we did see them. We gave up too soon. Don't give up. Keep watching. Keep your camera with you, and just be ready. You have to have a gap in the clouds. If you don't have a gap in the clouds, you can't see into the sky where they are.
They could be there, but if the cloud is too deep, you won't be able to see them.
It's just white, and if you do, even with a long exposure photograph, it just exposes the clouds, and you just see a white sky.
Seeing the Northern Lights is not a guarantee, so you have to manage the potential risks and also your own expectations as well.
Yeah, you're not guaranteed to see them. We thought we weren't going to see them, but we did a few things that made us lucky to see them. You need to be in the Arctic Circle. So that means you're going to have to travel a lot. We took 2 flights to get there. So we flew into Oslo, and then we flew from Oslo to Tromsø, and then both times we saw the Northern Lights, we'd driven further away from a tour bus one time, and then we'd driven to some accommodation that had no light pollution the second time.
Norway is expensive. If anyone's ever been to Norway, you will know this already. Everywhere is kind of like being in a capital city. So imagine you're visiting London, Paris, New York, etc. Those are the kind of prices really to expect. Alcohol in particular is quite highly taxed, but just be aware that this isn't going to be a cheap trip. Even if you only do it for 3 or 4 days, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, and it's not cheap to get there either.
The big thing that I would say around sort of managing your expectations is what you'll actually see. And I think we all see amazing photos, videos of these beautiful kind of green, purple sort of lights. That's kind of what traditionally everyone expects to see.
Moving around really quickly.
Yeah, like sort of dancing as they say.
Because they're time lapses. And actually they do dance. They do move more than you expect.
They do. But just be aware that what your eyes can see is quite different from what a camera will pick up.
Yeah.
So we also had a lot of cloud cover, so slightly different perhaps, but I don't really remember seeing too many of the colours. What I was actually seeing was the movements and the patterns.
Yeah, the grey.
But it was more grey. I didn't really see those kind of bright greens. It wasn't until I took a photo that I could actually kind of pick those up. So just manage what you think you might actually see in person with your own eyes in comparison to what you'll see through a camera.
The longer you stay there, the more chance you've got of seeing a big display.
Yeah, so I guess be prepared for a late night and also to just be outside for quite a long period of time as well. Whether you're doing it on a tour or whether you're doing it by yourself, it often only appears for quite a short period of time as well, which is the other thing. It kind of comes and goes quite quickly. So when you get the opportunity, make sure that you capture it. Yeah,
the second time we saw it, it was way more intense. We were just coming back from having dinner, and I fortunately had my camera with me. But by the time we'd got the tripod, because it's way better to have a tripod to keep everything still, it basically gone and the cloud was covering it all back up again. So we must have had the second time 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Something like that of being able to really see it. It was so cool, but it's short and fleeting when the clouds are in the way. Yeah, you want to have the best camera you've got available to you with you. Whether that's the latest iPhone or you've got a proper camera like we have. Some quick photography tips. Take your widest lens. You want to get as much of the landscape in as possible. Expose for no longer than 3 seconds, otherwise they just blur. You don't get the shape of them. And then you've got a fast lens. Take it. You need to have a tripod. Make sure you've got a tripod because it keeps everything still. And make sure you know how to use a camera in the dark, because I was fumbling around with 2 pairs of gloves in the snow on a frozen lake, and I couldn't find where all my buttons were. And I kept saying to Amy, "Can you shine your phone on the back? I can't. I'm trying to get the dials right and get all the settings right." Do some practice. I'm really experienced with doing light painting and things like that, but I hadn't done anything like that recently with this camera. I'd upgraded cameras. Get a bit of practice taking shots of stars and things like that before you go if you're trying to capture good images. Another thing that you need to be aware of is a risk is that you might get hooked. I already want to go back, and I've been looking at flights, and Amy's like, "You haven't got any more money."
If you enjoyed this one, check out our full Norway series by clicking on the playlist.